This episode is sponsored by Audible, and I want to speak honestly for a minute here. So we'll come in close. I don't know why I took off my glasses. I can't see without them. But speaking seriously now, I honestly feel if you're not enjoying audiobooks already, you're missing out on one of the main entertainment mediums of the modern day. And I like to, being honest, like if you have not experienced Brandon Sanderson, Orson Scott Card, George R.R. Martin, Robert Jordan, Patrick Rothfuss, okay, through audiobooks, you are missing out because the audiobooks are so much better than many other adaptations. And I mean, like, Game of Thrones, the audiobooks are a lot better. And you can try this out for free, okay? Just no stress at all if you go to www.audible.com/Shadiversity, or if you're in the US, you simply text Shadiversity to 500 500. Now, I actually really believe this is a great deal because if you do that, okay, you will get an audiobook for free as well as 2 Audible originals. Now, Audible originals are audiobooks that you can't get anywhere else, only on the Audible platform, and they're made by the best writers and narrators in the world, okay? And you won't be able to get them anywhere else. Audible does literally have an unmatched selection of audiobooks. My own audiobook is available through Audible. Chronicles of Everfall, Shadow of the Conqueror. It's not just fantasy, even though fantasy is my favorite, but there's also self-help, education, stuff like that. And so we always like to try new things in the new year, you know, New Year's resolutions and stuff like that. And so whatever resolution you have, you're going to find something on Audible that will actually help educate you and make you enthusiastic for the goal that you want to achieve on Audible as well. So it's a great opportunity to try it out for free. All you need to do is sign up to Audible for 30 days, and once again, you're going to get the first audiobook free, as well as 2 Audible originals. Again, going to www.audible.com/Shadiversity, or text Shadiversity to 500 500 if you're in the US. Aside from recommending my own audiobook, which of course I would, how can I not? Narrated by Michael Kramer and Kate Redding, 2 of the best narrators in the world. It's Chronicles of Everfall, Shadow of the Conqueror. I would also highly recommend Skyward by Brandon Sanderson. It's one of his first ventures into the sci-fi genre, and it's such a good book. I loved it. The dogfighting in it and everything, spaceships, it's brilliant. And on top of all that, Audible is doing a really interesting promotion at the moment that if you listen to 3 audiobooks by March 3rd, you'll get a $20 Amazon credit. You don't need to do anything. The Audible app records what you listen to, so you can go back and find out what you recently listened. And if you do, 3 within 3 months, essentially, March 3rd. And I think I've already done that. I've listened to Skyward, I've re-listened to Fires of Heaven from Robert Jordan. I'm currently going through The Lord of Chaos, I think. What can I say? I love The Wheel of Time. Re-listen to it. It's brilliant, okay? So, like I said, you're missing out if you're not enjoying audiobooks. This is one of my most beloved entertainment mediums. Please check it out. Links are in the description below.
Shadiversity.
Greetings, I'm Shad, and welcome to Fight Scene Autopsy. The most pedantic deconstruction of sword-based fight scenes here on YouTube. And in this episode, we'll be looking at The Witcher, specifically the fight scene in Blaviken and Geralt Vs Renfri. So as usual on Fight Scene Autopsy, I'm mainly going to be assessing this fight scene, looking for how functional and realistic the sword fighting is, though I of course will be acknowledging if the fight scene is like cinematic. Is it done well in regards to the timing, the coordination, and the camera work? And I will just say right off the bat that this fight scene, including the fight scene of Geralt versus the henchmen and Renfri, is actually done really well in that regard. The camera work is brilliant, it is fast-paced, the movements are clear and concise, and there is a decent level of proficiency. The question is if the validity of the moves themselves undermines this, because there is a level where the actual swordsmanship is so bad that it can become irredeemable regardless of how well the camera work and timing was done, like we saw in the throne room fight scene from The Last Jedi. Is it that level of stupid? Well, let's watch, break it down, even in slow-mo when needed, to figure that out. So I just need to briefly comment on the narrative here. My more complete thoughts can be seen in my overall review of the Witcher series, but if it is Renfri's intention to force Geralt to choose the lesser of 2 evils, which means siding with her or the wizard, hoping that Geralt will side with her, why on earth do these guys attack her? They're even stating, choose, and yet the guy with the crossbow is just about to shoot him unprovoked. Like, it wasn't clear what Geralt was going to choose up to this point. He just goes, dang it, and has his sword ready in case they do attack him, which they do. So, it's... sorry, there are some issues with the narrative in The Witcher. Alright, see that was a great example of the awesome camera work in this fight scene. The quick kind of panning shot that speeds up and then goes into slow motion to focus in on the crossbow bolt. And did you see the camera work there? How when it shot, it zoomed in on the bolt and then zoomed out and then spins around, and the camera is staying on the bolt through that entire scene. It didn't cut to Geralt. We follow the bolt to Geralt, and then he deflects it. And of course, I have no problem with the deflection because this is fantasy and stuff, and he's essentially a semi-superhuman. He, like they call him, he's a mutant. He's got enhancements in him. So of course, Geralt is going to be fighting with superhuman kind of abilities and reflexes. So not a problem at all with deflecting the bolt out of the air. And the camera work so far is just brilliant. Like, it's honestly so much better than The Last Jedi, because I don't want you to think that The Last Jedi's camera work was good and what ruined it was the terrible choreography. No, the camera work was lousy as well, because part of making a good fight scene isn't just good choreography, it's also finding the camera position to settle on the fighters at the beginning of their engagements and the end of their engagements to have good poses. In actual fact, I'm going to link this video here. It's a great video, and he talks about what makes a good fight scene. And one of the cool things he brings up is the importance of posing to convey power, but also intention of the combatants in a fight scene. And you can do this, like the posing, with good, accurate historical swordsmanship, just good choreography generally as well. Whoa, okay, let's look at that in slow-mo. Now look at this guy telegraphing that swing. I mean, even someone who isn't trained in swordsmanship, who sees that pose, they know exactly what is doing, what is about to do, where the strike is coming from. Now, I can excuse it because these are, they're henchmen, essentially, the more untrained brutes. So, look, I can excuse it with these types of guys because they're meant to be trash. So he comes in, big, wide swing. Now, Geralt... He does an underhand reverse grip upward sweep to deflect it. Alright, because as we saw from this fight scene, he's fighting with a reverse grip. And so he knocks it aside. Okay, and that's repeating the motion a bit from another angle. And then the sword has been knocked aside, and then he comes in with a slash, and the guy just looks to have stood there to receive it. Do you see how open Geralt is in his overswing there? And the guy's sword is technically positioned, even though it was knocked aside. It depends how strong the knock was, because if the knock wasn't strong enough to really throw the momentum of the sword away, the guy could have followed through with his own strike right down on Geralt with how open he is. But of course he doesn't, because he's just kind of... And then he just kind of lets go of his... See, he isn't even struck there. He is let go of his sword like he's already hit to do the death pose. And he even kind of seems to let go of his sword beforehand. And then he's like, the slash... Okay, so... Obviously, you didn't see it because it's pretty quick in this part here, but there's no actual cut on his gut. Like, technically, by what we're looking at here, it didn't penetrate. What I kind of like here is that Geralt is now somewhat half-swording. He's grabbed his sword blade downwards on the blade near the Ricasa area, and there are some instances where medieval blades actually were not really sharpened on that portion of the blade, so you can grab it, and so that's all good. And then he brings it up with a double-handed stab right on the side of the mouth, kind of out the cheek, and then good. See, this ends in a good, powerful pose. It's like looking at the guys. Yeah, that's what I just did. So then he rips it out in a big blood splatter thing, and the guy just drops. So that exchange showed power. It had good kind of positioning, but ultimately they were overswinging by both Geralt and the guy seems to have just stood there to take it. So now I should really comment on the reverse grip here that Geralt is now posing, is ready for before, he's getting ready to fight, and now he's got his sword in the reverse grip, just going forward. So reverse grip like this is bad, okay? I've commented on it before in other Fight Scene Autopsies. No. Your range of motion with the sword in this position is hindered greatly, okay? To angle the sword into positions that you can do easily when holding the sword conventionally is really awkward in reverse grip. And not only are you limited in the motion, you're limited in the range you have of the blade as well, and power generation on top of it. Reverse grip is horrible. You don't do it in historical swordsmanship. Yes, there's like one or two moves, that's shown in historical sources of a reverse grip, but that's like thrusts, awkward positions, attacking from, the sword blade being drawn or in the sheath and stuff like that. They're the exception, okay? You never go into a full fight scene like Geralt is doing with full reverse grip. It's horrible. You don't do it. Now, is there an excuse with Geralt doing it in this fight scene? Maybe. And it could be that he just doesn't give a stuff. He is so skillful, so good, that these guys are trash and is going to beat them, because it's like he's holding his sword just casually, like he was just walking and holding the sword, and he hasn't even been bothered to put it in its proper grip because he doesn't need to. These guys are trash and is going to defeat them like trash. That's maybe an excuse, but honestly, I don't think it fully excuses it. I hate the reverse grip, but what they do with it in this fight scene, well, let's find out if he does anything mildly decent. If you'd like a deeper, more detailed breakdown as to why the reverse grip is atrocious, I recommend this video by Academy of Steel. He is a HEMA practitioner and his breakdown is brilliant, so please check it out if you want to see more. Okay, so now let's look at the second exchange playing in regular speed. So the guy is coming in with a strike. Geralt, this is actually half decent, okay? He's actually blocking with the flat of his blade, interestingly enough, bracing it with his backhand, and so he catches the strike as it's coming in, and then is pushing it up over his head, and then is going with the movement, and see how he's pushing it up, which actually naturally is rotating his body, and then by going with the momentum, he's spinning around and then slashes the guy as his open. That is a brilliant maneuver and brilliant attack, and it wasn't hindered by the fact, well, actually, he kind of switches into a regular grip, I think, here. So he comes in, and then he is grasping the blade almost in a regular grip, and then spinning it around. Yeah, he switches to a regular slashing strike. Yep, because he's holding it right there in the regular grip. So he throws it up, leveraging his opponent overhead into a slash across the side. The edge alignment looks to be off pretty bad there, but that's a great exchange, beautifully choreographed, and see how the camera is moving with the motion, where we start here and the camera is moving back with the forward movement of Geralt. This is very top-tier camera work for this fight scene right now, and so brilliant. Thumbs up with that exchange. Let's see what happens next. Yeah, that was pretty straightforward. We'll go back a bit. So the guy comes in for the strike. Geralt knocks it away. Actually, did he knock it away? It seems... Alright, or it's a miss out of range. The guy is going back for another... Okay, so it's a bit messy, actually, when you slow it down. But okay, the guy was open. Geralt stabs him in the leg. And he's just kind of... Ouch, that hurts a lot. With your adrenaline running... I actually think the guy wouldn't have been thrown off by getting stabbed in the leg like that. Maybe if it was through his throat or it's a death strike. But if the guy with his adrenaline running, I think you just would have hacked him with his axe back. But he seems to just, oh no, my leg. And he falls. And yeah, he just like, the leg attack is killing him. But it's just a hit in the leg. It's like... The guy should still be alive! And so he falls away, doing nothing. Geralt has switched back to his reverse grip, and he does like a backward swipe, which I'm not sure does anything. Okay, they have a sound effect that they threw in there to make it sound like he struck something, but no, he actually didn't strike anything. There was no blade. It's just a movement. He just moves, swings it around. But, that is some movie magic that I think is passable. Like, it's full. The sound effect made you, because it's so fast you couldn't see, it really made you feel like he struck something, because just listen to it and watch here. See that? The ting? Yeah, like, it feels like he blocked something playing at normal speed, so I think that, you know, that'll pass. I'll let it pass. Okay, so interesting. It's a grapple. Oh, I like that. So what happens here, this guy, he's come in for a strike. See here? Coming in for a strike. And Geralt, he blocks it with his... Gee, his hand is all... Like, if he just put his hand forward, see where his hand is there? If he just put his hand forward to block the blade like that, that would have chopped his hand in two. But it seems like he's just kind of bracing it, not touching, holding his hand ready, blocking it then with his blade, and then grabs the opponent's blade with his hand, and then by grabbing it with his hand, he's holding the opponent's blade at bay. He no longer needs to hold it at bay with his sword, which enables him to do a reverse slash right across the guy's face. See how I was holding the blade? That's good. I like that. So that exchange, I give a bit of a thumbs up as well. That's pretty decent, okay? He finishes off with another slash. So 1, 2, and then he spins around. He's still holding the opponent's sword. See, the opponent's sword there is holding. And so now he technically has 2 blades. Yes, he's holding 2 swords, both reverse grip, but it makes sense why he's holding that one reverse grip, because it was a grapple against his opponent. And, you know, you can hold the blade like that. That won't cut your hand unless you're sliding it. So that's fine. And then he uses his opponent's blade to block. And then, okay, so let's actually watch that again. So he comes in, blocks, and then slashes down? That was a bit odd. So he blocks here, and then because he's warding off his opponent's blade, his opponent is now completely open on his back. And so he can just slash, chop off his armor, everything like that. I mean, you could do so much more if you're holding your other sword in the correct position. But instead, he brings his sword up and over the guy's arm. That's like, Geralt, what are you doing? He was wide open. Just kill him. I don't... Okay. So then he up over with his arm to ward, pull down the blade. Oh! He chopped the guy's arm off. Is that what it was? We'll watch it at regular speed. There's the guy's hand. Bit of wonky CGI there. So this is why he brings his sword up over the guy's arm. See, over the guy's arm there, down to literally disarm him. Well, dishand him, I suppose, because you see the blade there. It's in a perfect position. Then he just rips it back, slices the guy's hand off completely. That'll do the job. Yep. And then he does something interesting. So, again, this is one of the advantages of when the fight scene is moving so fast, because you don't really pick up some of the wonky things that happens, because that looked convincing enough, perfectly passable, and so I won't criticize it, even though when you slow it down, you see something rather odd. Which is this. See how he's holding the blade? He throws it, and see where the sword is being aimed? That's being aimed right at the door. It's not angled at the guy's chest. But then CGI takes over, and suddenly the sword throws off at a different angle from where his hand has been thrown. So his hand throws it towards the door, yet the sword flies off at a completely different angle into the guy's chest. Which is like, what happened there? But again, you don't really pick up on that when this is playing at regular speed. And yeah, at regular speed, that was convincing, so I won't hold it against this fight scene. I will say the armor that these henchmen are wearing, and Renfri a bit later, is doing nothing. Every sword is basically a lightsaber in this series, and it frustrates me so much. Seriously, everyone, they should just not be wearing armor at all. It's nothing. It is doing nothing. Yeah, magic knocks them off guard. I mean, it didn't really do anything except put them on the back foot, and for that, I think it's worth it, though that maneuver there, like, the amount of force that it actually knocked them, you know, a step back, that would be tremendously effective when he's actually in the bind or something with his opponent. Their opponents have engaged, then he does the magic. But he doesn't do that in any exchange. He has, like, it's just a throwaway move to just knock them off guard a little bit, and so it's not employed nearly as well as it could have been. Okay, big telegraph hit here. See him is like, I'm coming to hit you, Geralt. I'm coming to hit. Wow, what is he doing with that shield? Oh no, that's horrible. You have a shield for a reason, mate. But he's got the shield and then he just swings it wide open like an absolute noob. It's like, this is like, kill me, Geralt, kill me. See how open he is and how much is telegraphing. Look, I admit, you know, these guys are noobs. They're supposed to be bad henchmen who's unskilled, but this is particularly egregious because it's like, wow. It's like, just kill me, Geralt. His telegraphing is hit. I like the weapon he's using. That's actually, that's a blade that you see in the Makajowski Bible. Like, have a look at it. See that? See that right there? You don't. So, hey, interesting kind of historical weapon that's randomly appearing. All right, good points. And then very telegraphed hit. Geralt, yep, basic block. Ooh, that was actually a pretty decent spin as well. So watch what Geralt does. He blocks, okay, and then he's going to push away the blade. But see where his blade position is, okay? To stop the momentum of his blade and then attack back, that would probably take about as much time as going with the momentum, which is essentially what he does here. He throws it off to the side, and then the guy is knocked off his balance as well, and Geralt goes with the momentum and spins around to stab when the guy is open. The guy is kind of standing there, is like holding it a bit too long, but I mean, because the fight scene is fast, you don't really pick up on the guy just waiting to get hit, then he gets stabbed right in his throat. Okay, so again, watch it. He goes with the momentum, and going with the momentum, if you're not leaving yourself drastically open, and because the first strike here is knocking the opponent's blade away, and because he's knocked the opponent's blade away, he isn't actually open when he spins, because he can be very reassured that he has taken away the threat, at least temporarily. Running up, and what is he aiming at? But he doesn't even, like, seriously, maybe he's thinking of trying to get around to stab in Geralt's side, but Geralt is blocking it. And, you know, look, Geralt, decent block here. What is he doing with his sword? Hang on. He brings his sword. Oh, okay, the sword is face downwards, and then he brings it up into a stab slash under the guy's armpit, and then is about to grab that guy's gladius for his own. Interesting to see gladius in a medieval-ish setting, but, you know, hey, maybe it's an old weapon. So now Geralt has two weapons, a gladius and his longsword. Yeah, the guy's bracing for an attack, but Geralt, that's a big telegraph, mate, and so obviously, yeah, the guy would have been able to block it easily, but weird weapon? It's like a cleaver with a handle. That would be cumbersome and awful to use. Ugh, I don't like that thing. And he's holding it weirdly as well. It's like he's just bracing for a block, but is not, again, underarm grip with the main handle. He's not going to get much leverage and angle to be able to produce some powerful strikes in that position. Right, block. Oh. So Geralt is coming in wide slash, and this is a bad spin because he's not knocking his opponent's weapon away. He's just kind of tapping it, and then after he taps, is like, hit me wide open. It's basically just it's an open. This is a good example of a terrible spin. Bad, Geralt. Stop doing it. If the guy just slashed forward, Geralt would be dead. So bad spin, but no, the guy is just standing there waiting to take it. And, okay. Geralt slashes forward, but misses with the gladius, but the guy blocks the longsword with his weird weapon, again, holding it underarm, and then he just kind of poses, and because Geralt has a second weapon, is basically open invitation for Geralt to kill him, which is exactly what Geralt does. Yeah. The guy just stood there. It's like, it's a weapon Geralt was holding. But no, it's just like, here, kill me, and yeah. I mean, it's funny. This is one of those instances where I say the guy's right open and so could kill him if they just do that, which is exactly what Geralt does. So, I mean, props. Geralt does take advantage of the blatant opening. He's just so stupid, the guy was just standing there like that. And so, of course, he's dead. It's like pretty casual expression for a guy that's just been skewered. Maybe he's just in disbelief. He's like, I can't believe this is happening. I shouldn't have eaten that eggs for breakfast. And, yeah, look, solid decapitation. My only weird thing about this is that the guy is standing inside a kind of, like, door frame. And so for the angle and for the sweep that is needed for the head to be decapitated, I think Geralt's sword would have actually hit the stone on either side before it gets deep enough to actually slice all the way through the neck. So, but look, I mean, they can do that with, nice blood splatter there. But they could get away with it with the angle and just movie magic, and it looked good enough. Alright, so that is the Battle of Blaviken, and honestly, it wasn't terrible. There was good parts and there were bad parts, so it isn't a complete dumpster fire, but it isn't a masterpiece either. But when you add the elements that were good, the bits of choreography that were good, with the excellent camera work throughout that whole fight scene, the powerful poses and strength of the position, and even though some of the maneuvers were poor from a swordsmanship perspective, they were done with good timing and good proficiency, and so overall, I think this fight scene is good, okay? I would still rate this as good overall, with some significant enough issues, but still good. And so with that out of the way, let's get to his fight with Renfri.
You chose.
What do you mean he chose? The guy with the crossbow shot at Geralt before Geralt actually chose anything. He was just standing there with the sword. Ugh, sorry, this is just one of my annoying things about this, narrative. And as we will see right here, Geralt still doesn't want to kill her.
Let the girl go.
Alright, I just need to comment on how little Geralt's sword is, okay? Look at how big Henry is, right? He is a built guy, but his sword is pretty... Look, it's harder to see from this angle, but there's another angle where it really shows that blade is like arming sword length blade on a two-handed handle, okay? It's an awkward size, especially for his size. For a proper longsword, it needs to be bigger. I'm just saying.
I will kill everyone here until Strickable comes down.
Leave Blaviken. It's not too late.
You see? He doesn't want to kill her, but she's going to force it by attacking.
Magic doesn't work on me. Silver does, though.
Silver is for monsters.
Why? What is she doing? That's not a guard position. Like, why? This is never done in historical swordsmanship or just practical. Like, seriously, think about this pose as a sword guard. You are presenting your arm to your opponent without any real sword in front of it protecting it. Your sword blade is resting on your arm with only a small portion of blade extending a bit further from it. With any regular card position that Geralt is holding, you just swing your sword up, stab forward, and your arm, your whole body is exposed. It's so dumb! Oh,
If we cross swords...
I won't be able to stop.
Again, Geralt doesn't want to fight her. Why is she forcing him? Like, I thought her strategy was to get him to kill the wizard, and she thinks by attacking Geralt, he will fight the wizard for... watch my full Witcher review, because a lot of the narrative just doesn't make sense. I mean, hey, Henry is great as Geralt. There's good parts to it, don't say. It's just, yeah. Okay, so now let's get to the proper fight scene. Okay, so again, the speed and the camera work is great, and Geralt is reluctant to fight her, so is just dodging. See, that was all very fast, well-timed, and is dodging, and the dodges are good. So we're going slow-mo here. Yeah, that thrust was aimed for his head. looks like it would have hit if he didn't lean aside. Now, interesting sword that she's using. It's got kind of a cutout there. I mean, a cutout at that point, if the sword had enough width around the cutout, shouldn't affect its structural strength, and so it's just an aesthetic thing. So yeah, I'll let the sword pass. And yep, misses. She goes down for what was that? A strike. That does directly miss. That's just a weird one. And then okay, see that? That was... Gee, it almost really looks like it hit him there. But no, it just misses. So again, he leans back, avoiding the strike. So another good dodge. And because that looked legitimately very close to him, that's great, okay? When a strike would have hit, if one of the opponents didn't dodge, it means the dodge was very necessary and executed well. So that's good. And then a forward thrust, which Geralt is forced to block. A spin. So you might be able to say that her first strike knocked Geralt's sword aside enough to be able to time the spin and not get hit because the sword was knocked out of the way. But I'm not convinced. I mean, I think if Geralt was fast, so this is the exchange. This is it even looks like Geralt is knocking her blade away, so his blade wouldn't have been knocked so far away where if he just slashes down, look at this, just slash down Geralt, and she would be cut wide open. So this is a horrible spin. It's just to look flashy, fast movement. No, stupid. So coming in for another thrust, and yeah, a good block, though the blades look to have crossed oddly there. And she's going for another bloody spin. This is a really dumb spin as well. Again, Geralt could just kill her. She's wide open. You see, have a look at this first spin that Geralt did in this Blaviken fight. And I'm pointing this out to show the difference because he spins with his sword in a guard position, warding off his opponent's blade. This is how you do it. See that? That was brilliant. Comes in, blocks, pushes up, spins around, and slashes, okay? And so spins can be done in choreography. I'm not saying it can't be done, but it needs to be done in a realistic way that keeps your guard up and protects it. And so if you want to see some of the best spins done in sword fighting choreography, it's actually the Anakin vs Obi-Wan fight from Star Wars Revenge of the Sith. I have a full Fight Scene Autopsy review, so please check that out if you want to see some of the best sword fight spins in any fight scene I've seen to this point, okay? Jumping back to Geralt vs Renfri here, these spins are horrible. See, if she held her sword up in maybe a hanging guard down position while she spun around, that could, be logical and look so much better and be plausible. But with this one, she's just wide open. She's like, it's terrible. And then she comes... What was she aiming for? Maybe she was attempting to go below Geralt's guard, but the problem with attacking low like that is that your upper body is completely open. Like, look at her. See how she's attacking low? What's her protecting her upper torso and head? Nothing. And if Geralt was had a regular grip, he could just move his legs back and then slash downwards. But he's holding his sword in the dumb reverse grip already, catches the blade, and then they kind of just pose. And she's got this face like, yeah, I'm good. No, you're not. You're spinning like a ballerina, being stupid. No. Oh, Geralt. What were you doing? You were the chosen one. Really? Look at where Renfri's blade is right now. Geralt doesn't knock her sword away so he can be safe while he withdraws. He just withdraws, leaves her sword in that position, and then presents his back to her. Oh, that's horrible. And if she had any brains, just thrust forward and he'd be dead. And so again, this is... choreography that's resorting to flashy movement and stuff like that without being considerate to vulnerability, sword position, or just effective functional swordsmanship. And it can be done. As I mentioned, go check out Anakin vs Obi-Wan, alright? I'm probably going to have to reference that a lot with fantasy sword fight spinning bullcrap because it's one of the only fight scenes that I've found that actually did it decently. But crap like this is just retarded. Look at him. It's just showing his butt. He's like, do you like this, Renfri? Do you like it? So dumb. Anyway, and then she doesn't actually strike at his opening. She just goes in. Admittedly, he's coming down for a strike, so you would want to block this. So it's going to be heavy. But I think if he was slashed open or run through from, the rear, like if he got stabbed right there, I have a feeling getting stabbed in the back would probably affect the follow-up strike he was intending. Maybe because he was bleeding out. And then he goes in for a heavy strike. She kind of does... She does a semi-block going with a... That's not a... So finally, not a bad spin. See, she's holding her sword. She catches the blade. And then she holds her sword in a defensive position while she kind of spun around it. Okay? She kind of was holding the sword up. But now she's pushed the sword away and she goes with the motion. This is a plausible spin. That's not bad. Alright, so they just... clash sword strikes. Then Geralt uses his greatest strength and leverage to break her structure, okay? Technically, her structure isn't bad. Her arm is fully extended and locked in position. If her arm was slightly bent, that is, bad structure, and you can break it much easier. But because Geralt is a tank and, he's built as just a brick, right? Yeah, he just pushes through it, knocks her off balance, and then, okay, this is interesting, because Geralt's momentum, he pushed too far in it, and now he went to the side. So that might give Renfri enough time to do her spin there. That one's not too bad, okay? I'm going to go back, and we'll play it at regular speed, and I think this one is plausible. Because it looks like Geralt wasn't really waiting in this position here. His sword was knocked off and then he instantly comes back for a counter-strike, and between that motion there from being knocked and then returning with a strike was enough time for Renfri to do the spin. So this one isn't as bad. She isn't holding her guard, her back is exposed, but because Geralt's timing, it's like timed right in between his strikes, she does get away with it. So this is where it falls apart. She strikes, Geralt blocks, and then she decides to reverse her momentum and go in the opposite direction. And look, Geralt's blade! It's right behind you! You haven't warded away his blade in any measure. You've withdrawn your strike, and then just exposed your back, and if Geralt had any brains, he could just slash you open, so this is another dumb, bad spin. And it looks like there's far more bad spins in this fight scene, specifically talking about Geralt vs Renfri here, than good spins. And so the choreography is falling apart a bit. And so, yeah, she strikes and Geralt blocks. He doesn't take advantage. And then she does it again! And Geralt ducks. And so that was a double. She attacks from each side. It's like, from her back. It's like, no, this is bad. This is very bad. And watch it at regular speed here. Back. No! So was that 3? Back exposed once, back exposed twice, and back exposed 3 times. Oh, that's horrible. Now, it looks fancy because there's a lot of movement and a lot of spinning, but from a practical swordsmanship perspective, this is nonsensical, especially with how open she is. And Geralt, he just slash her. Wide open. What's interesting here, Geralt ducks, and because there's an attack coming, so of course you would want to duck the attack, but is doing nothing with his sword. His sword is just kind of sitting there, and he could just slash it outwards and get her right in the back, but he doesn't. See that? And he even kind of went with the motion, okay? Look where it's here. Geralt ducks down and is about to spin around to his right. A rightward spin, and if he just extended his sword out as he spins, see there's the duck, and then he's spinning around to his right. If he just extended his sword out when he did that, he would have slashed her right across the side because she's wide open. That doesn't happen. She's wide swing overhead, not caring about a defense, and then Geralt comes in with a slap. Alright, I really have to criticize this because this is one of my big pet peeves, and I paused and emphasized this in the throne room fight scene of The Last Jedi. I hate it when in a sword fight, one of the combatants strikes their opponent with a fist or a foot or something like that, and not their weapon, okay? By striking like this, the narrative of this fight scene is overtly, explicitly stating that the opponent was open and a strike connected, which means you could have just done it with your sword. Instead of letting go, see, both hands were on his sword. Instead of letting go of your sword, you could have held onto it with your right hand, right? Holding it in a regular standard sword strike, and then carry your... So imagine he was holding his sword now with his right hand, and he slashes out with it. She would have been decapitated. But for some reason, he decides to not grab his sword. He lets go, and he slaps her instead. Now, I should say Geralt doesn't actually want to kill Renfri, and that is shown towards the end. And so I think the ultimate kind of get out of jail card for this fight scene that you can play, and it does make logical sense, is Geralt doesn't want to kill her. So that's really the answer. And so maybe he's just trying to fight her off, and the slap was intentional. It's like, look, you're open, you're fighting like an idiot, and so I shall slap you. So I shall slap you on the side of the face because you are pathetic, sir. And you're not actually nearly as good as you think you are. I think that, alright, I think that is plausible. I could accept it, and that redeems a decent amount of the stupid moves that Geralt is doing, but not Renfri. I mean, it seems like she's trying to kill him. I mean, if Geralt didn't duck here, that strike would have taken off his head. It's just that he could have slashed her head off if he wanted to. Okay, so I think we need to acknowledge that. Alright, so what are they doing here? Geralt slaps her, and then they decide to get into a pose. It's technically a bind, but it's not a real bind because no one is taking advantage. They're not maneuvering out of the bind. Okay, so this is the main scene where it really shows Geralt doesn't want to kill her, because if he just pushes his blade forward, he would cause her blade to slash her open. He's essentially won. I've won, stop fighting me, he's basically implying.
They created me just as they created you. We're not so different.
Oh, low blow. Low blow. Alright, so Geralt doesn't want to kill her, which makes sense why he isn't attacking her, and the question is, why didn't she take advantage of anything in the bind? And it's kind of answered right here. She wanted to distract him by, goading him, talking to him, saying, we're the same, we're both mutants, to draw a dagger and stab him right in the guts. And if you want any evidence that she's trying to kill him, well, there's your evidence right here. Interesting. So, look, she kind of leverages her sword, and so what she does here. She leverages her sword down right to the hilt, which gives her more leverage over Geralt's blade, which means she can push his blade off. And so, yeah, absolutely, that's decent, good. Gets it caught on the crossguard protecting her hand from Geralt's blade sliding down to get her fingers, so that's why crossguards are good, people. She throws him off. Geralt isn't really too off balance. So let's see what happens now. Another spin. She's dual-wielding, sword and dagger. She's technically trying to strike Geralt here. Geralt isn't really attacking back, especially by the angle of his sword. It's angled downwards, not ready for a strike. So Geralt's just simply blocking. And then she goes into a spin. And look at this. And see what he did then? Instead of bringing his sword down to strike her back, he just throws it to the side, but again, is not trying to kill her, and it's really shown by the end of the fight scene, he has to be pushed to it. So I think, yeah, in the narrative of the fight scene, we do need to excuse the intent of what Geralt is doing. Now, if you want to come at me and say that's what Obi-Wan was doing in the fight scene between him and Anakin, that I actually disagree with. So many of Obi-Wan's strikes were kill strikes if Anakin didn't block him, okay? Obi-Wan was actually trying to kill him in that exchange. He was reluctant to, but he was forced to fight aggressively, so It doesn't apply, alright? But I think it does apply more so here. Especially since I haven't really seen Geralt attack back at her to the point where if she didn't block, she would have died. Has there been any strikes like that from Geralt up to this point? I don't think there has been. Alright, so Geralt is attacking her here, but that does look like it would have missed, so maybe he's purposely missing there as well. That one, he is not really aiming for her again. Again, not aiming for her. She's open in multiple parts here, and he doesn't take advantage of it. By the way, yes, I've gone back in time to just check. He could have killed her here, but instead he chooses to slap her. So, all throughout this fight scene, I think it actually is a very valid argument that Geralt is not trying to kill her because I haven't seen a direct attack from him that would have been a death blow unless she defended or blocked it. So yes, that is a valid defense. It plays out logically according to the fight scene.
They created me just as they created you. We're not so different.
Okay, so now we're back to where we were at the fight scene, where again, Renfri was open, Geralt could have killed her, but he doesn't. He swings his sword to the side, and look, he kind of blocks her attack, but that attack, like, her angle of her body, she wasn't even swinging far enough to actually reach him, so that was a bad attack from Renfri. And again, she loves doing this backwards spinning, like, from one side to another. It's really bad. Okay, that was cool. So she was going to go and try and, you know, stab him. Geralt grabs. Now, would this be a death blow? Is he getting pushed to the point in this fight where he's really having to fight back more aggressively? No, because she didn't even need to dodge that strike to miss it. Like, she could have... see where her head is there? She could have left her head in that position, and Geralt's attack still would have missed. So... the defense that is not trying to kill her is technically still holding up. But even if he goes for a kill strike in the fight scene, it can work well in the narrative that is getting pushed to it up to this point because she's just not letting up. She's stabbed him in the gut, so he actually might need to resort to lethal intent to win this fight, which ultimately... he does have to. Like, his only option is to kill Renfri, otherwise she will keep pushing it until she kills him. So I think this is actually justified in the underlining narrative so far. See, look here, like... she goes into attack. Oh, there we get to see some of the props floppiness, and her strike hits on the flat anyway, so it's like, technically, if you struck someone with a steel blade like that, it would probably flop that bad as well. And so he actually blocks with a double-handed thing, and he is holding his sword in the proper angle, proper grip. It's not reverse grip anymore. Thank goodness. So what on earth? So... after he blocks with the double-handed, we're going back, now we're going forward again. Renfri goes to stab with a dagger, and Geralt kind of blocks, but not that. That's a weird one. It's like if she went forward with the strike, she would have thrown her fist down onto the blade and cut it open, so I'd say that's very good. Then she does the whole bullcrap again, like, look at her, she's just her back. It's like her back has been facing Geralt more often than her front in this fight scene, which is nonsensical stupidity, like, really. Okay. Oh, this is something interesting happening. Let's watch this in regular speed, because it's looking interesting. He blocks on his back. Okay, is it justified? After blocking the weird strike with the dagger, she's kind of thrown off and she comes back with an attack on the other side. It looks like the swords connect. You can't really see it, but it looks like Geralt knocks her sword down, which means knocks Renfri's blade up, and she's coming down for a downward strike, and Geralt spins his sword back and blocks. Ooh. Ooh. Alright, look, you would only see this because we're going slow motion, because Renfri's sword actually catches him right in the head, right there. The edge alignment is atrocious. She's slapping him with the flat of the blade, so there's a couple of things to deconstruct here. First off, if Renfri actually struck Geralt in this way, it wouldn't have killed him because she's slapping him with the back of the blade because the edge alignment is completely off, okay? So that's the first bad thing. But if the edge alignment was correct, she would have slashed open the back of his head because that's enough contact there that the blade doesn't even block it. The other thing is, though, is that you don't notice this when watching it in proper speed. You only see it in slow motion. So can we truly apply it? I think that error is bad enough that we should still apply that as a criticism. If one of these strikes legitimately connected and they're playing it off like it didn't, like that's what they're trying to say, he caught it in that position, when no, he caught it right there, right in his head. So that's a flaw in the choreography and counts as a negative. But then they're going to say, no, he caught it on the strong, or technically not on the strong of his blade, but his blade was stiff enough to hold strong, is what I'm trying to say here, to protect himself from Renfri's connection. And it's a good pose there. But she doesn't take advantage of it. See how long they were just looking at each other? See the position here? If she just takes a step back, raises her hand, she would place the blade of her blade onto Geralt's back unless he pushes the sword out. But it's not doing it, it's just standing there. And then she could push forward or pull back in a draw cut, slicing his back open. But instead they decide to look at each other. Geralt, instead, he eventually decides to push it open. Look, he's leveraging his shoulder into the blade a bit, but I don't think there's enough force for him to have gotten cut. Maybe his shirt would have been sliced open a bit, but then he's pushing the blade off. And is he open? Not really, because he pushed it, and then is coming around to block anything. So if Renfri did decide to thrust forward here, the motion that Geralt is doing here is fast enough that he would have blocked it in this sweeping motion, which would have knocked Renfri's blade away, and then coming down for a heavy downward strike. And she's doing an appropriate, not appropriate thing. She's going to block, and she's trying to brace the block with her dagger. She wouldn't be adding too much leverage to the block by holding it with the dagger like that. But having said that, swords don't have a lot of mass in them, and so it doesn't take too much effort to stop a strike like this unless it's really powerful. And Geralt, you know, Henry Cavill, he's a built guy. There would be a lot of power in here, so much power that I think what happens next is very accurate. Geralt breaks her block. And I think one of the main reasons, like, obviously they're doing it because of choreography, but if this was a real fight scene, it's happening because she doesn't have good structure in her block. Look at how bent her elbow is when she's trying to catch it. And especially on her other hand, by the angle of her fist and wrist, you can tell that her forearm is horizontal, you know, in line with the blade, which means there is no structure to her receiving this incoming strike. Good structure would have your arm fully extended to receive the impact, but because it's not, it's much easier to break through the structure and break someone's guard, which is exactly what we see happening here. So I don't think the people who choreographed this fight scene was fully aware that this generally happens. They just want to do it because Geralt is strong and not necessarily because she doesn't have good structure, but it plays out accurately anyway, so I really like this part. And, you know, it slashes down enough where it cuts her open on the shoulder. And again, Geralt, he doesn't want to kill her, so maybe he, like, pulled back right at the end, because where the blades are right now, he could slash down in a really big draw cut and slice that cut open devastatingly. Like, from the angle position, a good solid draw cut could cut her through the collarbone all the way down into her chest. Really bad. But, again, he doesn't really want to kill her, so he doesn't do it. He's just holding it saying, look, I'm dominating you right now. You keep going, you're gonna die. But she's not gonna give up because she's a bit crazy. And then she throws off his blade because, yeah. And, you know, if she gets enough leverage, she could do it. Geralt is reluctant. What is she doing? Again, I think her back has been facing Geralt more often in this fight scene than her front. It's so dumb. And then slashes his leg, but still she was wide open, and Geralt, he could have just killed her, but yeah. This dance is horrible. I would say it's not as bad as her first one where she was resting the sword on her arm, but now she's just resting it on her blade. Like, this is not a sword stance, okay? You are presenting your forearm and shoulder to your opponent with nothing protecting it. This isn't a sword stance. It's just a pose. And if they're trying to play it off that it is, no, it's not. It's not. Interesting, okay, I don't know. She extends a thrust, Geralt slaps it aside, Then she converts the slap aside to a sideward slash, which misses completely. And look, sometimes you miss, sometimes, but she is not extending much at all. Like, that could have hit if she extended more. But look at what Geralt's sword is doing. See how he slaps aside, and then see how it moves down? She misses. And Geralt's blade, if he extended, he could have slashed her right across the gut, but he doesn't do it. I don't know, like, is the defense that is not trying to kill her still applying? Maybe. He could have killed her before, and he obviously didn't. He just cut her on the shoulder. But watch what she does now. She brings it around, and she switches hands. So now she's holding the dagger and her sword in one hand. To do what? Does this make sense? Renfri's style is retarded. It's really bad. Her style is present your back to your opponent and attack them from either side. Like, it's happening enough that this is legitimately her style of fighting. And it's nonsensical. This is really stupid. Like, really. You know, I've criticized Rey for having a bad style in her training where she does a horse stance and throws her sword, like a lightsaber, from side to side like a baseball bat. This is worse. This is legitimately a lot worse than even that. Like, you know, I might have to say that Renfri's style of sword fighting here might be the worst I've seen in any sword fight so far, or anyone that I've tried to analyze critically, okay? Especially on Fight Scene Autopsy. This is taking the cake. This is legitimately, like, horrible and nonsensical and stupid, and she's been doing it consistently enough that it's devolving into an actual style. Alright, so I've gone back to where she grabs the dagger and now is holding both in one hand, and we're going to go through the series of exchanges in slow motion. She comes up with a slash that wasn't aimed at him, wouldn't have hit him, so Geralt still throws it up, and then she decides to attack Geralt. Oh, that edge alignment. So, edge alignment, not bad, but look, right, from there to there. That's horrible edge alignment. Really bad. And did Geralt need to duck? Barely. He barely needed to duck because I was not, you know, hitting close nearly at all. And if Geralt wanted to, she's not protecting her legs, and Geralt would be holding a sword just out in front of him because, look, the sword is there, brings it down. He could slash her legs off, and he doesn't, so he's really not trying to kill her. With the amount she's open, like, oh my goodness! Like, really, Renfri is 100 times worse in terms of her maneuvers than what Geralt has been doing throughout this fight scene. Geralt hasn't been perfect, but the crap she's doing is atrocious. And then she decides to spin around again. Geralt, not only could Geralt have slashed her legs open here, she spins around, exposes her back. She could have been slashed open again to slap him on that side. He blocks, and then she spins around to slap on the other side, and that strike would have missed completely. That was horrible. Look at this. Missing completely. This is really trash right now. Sorry, this fight scene is getting worse and worse as it's progressing, unfortunately. You know how I was saying that sometimes good camera work and stuff can redeem bad choreography if it can pull it off? When you really slow down this fight scene, just like Last Jedi throne room fight scene, the ridiculous nature of the moves that Renfri is pulling off is like, it's really bad. It's really bad. So we're going backwards, okay? So remember, she slapped on that side, and now she's coming back to hit, and she misses completely. That strike was hitting nothing but air. She misses. Geralt seems to be going with it in an underarm grip. Once again, has gone back to underarm grip. She spins around, again exposing her back, and Geralt could have taken advantage of it if he wanted. It's interesting, the mistakes that Geralt is doing aren't necessarily mistakes in attacks, they're mistakes in not taking advantage of an open opponent. So they're not flaws in his styles per se, and there is justification, as I pointed out many times, for him not wanting to kill her, so you might be able to justify it somewhat, but it's happening a lot. And so those are the comparison of the flaws in what Geralt is doing versus what Renfri is doing, and Geralt's are excusable, Renfri's are not. That's my point. And again, she comes down and she's trying to stab him. Was that her whole, like, strategy? She's going to hold the dagger to turn her sword into a sword with a blade coming out of the pommel to, what, trick Geralt? It's like, haha, you think I'm going to hit you with the pommel, but no, I'm going to hit you with the dagger. Look, I think it was a dumb tactic, and Geralt grabs it anyway because he's a beast. He's like, no, you're not going to do it. I'm smart. See that look is doing there? Nice try, girl. You're not going to get away with it. And her look is like, oh, crap. And yes, it was a dumb tactic, okay? It wasn't even like a trick where she was trying to do a feint or make Geralt think it was just a pummel and a harmless, backsword coming in towards it. It wasn't even like that. So it was a dumb tactic all round. And she pulls the dagger out, slicing his hand open. And Geralt, well, he finally slashes her open. And as she should, like, she is wide open there. Like, finally, Geralt's maybe getting fed up. It's like, look, you have been exposing your back and your sides and fighting like an idiot this whole time. You deserve to get cut, at least. So Geralt, yeah, he cuts her because she's open, of course. Okay, so now Geralt's finally throwing some attacks back. And look at where we've landed. He does a spin of his own. So some of it was excusable so far, Geralt, but maybe not here. All right, but let's go back and watch it in proper speed to see what it looks like. Okay, now you might have assumed that that was a fairly good series of exchanges. There was good movement, there was good timing, good camera work, as is, a staple with this fight scene and stuff. But when you break it down, wow, there was a lot of trash in that exchange. Like, several exchanges. Seriously. Let me slow it down and show you. So, Geralt's fed up and is finally fighting back with purpose, okay? So, he comes in, it looks like it was a thrust deflected by Renfri, but honestly, look at the angle of his sword there. He was not aiming for her at all. And oh no, maybe he was, and she is pushing it aside with her dagger. So okay, she deflected with her dagger, and it was more on point than it looked. And so after getting deflected, Geralt throws down. Now, this is a massive telegraph strike. It's an he's gone back to reverse grip. So he's wide open. Now, what is Renfri doing? She pushed the sword down, and if she just raised her sword, thrust forward, Geralt would be dead as well, because this is a big telegraph strike. But look, Renfri, she's on the back foot, okay? Geralt is pushing forward with more purpose here, so if Renfri is on the back foot, maybe Geralt can see that and is therefore taking the opening, the gap in between that exchange, to come in with a heavier downward strike, because he's annoyed. So maybe it's more excusable if you look at it like there. Renfri moves back to move out of the way, misses. This is the problem with overswinging, and especially the underarm grip. If Renfri was just using, or any swordsman, right, was just using a proper sword stance, okay, and Geralt moves forward with this attack, and you simply move back to let the attack miss, which is what Renfri does, Geralt would be wide open, because the attack missed, and he overswings. Look at that, okay? And then if you had a standard good, sword stance, if it was long point, or plow, or ox, or even fool, right, your blade would be in a position to take advantage of that opening instantly. But no, because they don't even know proper sword stances. They're the choreographers here, what it appears to be, right? Of course, Renfri isn't in a position to take advantage of this massive opening. Geralt swings back. Is he holding his crossguard? Oh gosh, this is awful. He has lost the grip of his sword in this weird downward strike, and is like holding it legitimately by the crossguard. See that? He's holding the crossguard, and then because of that, the counter strike, the follow-up strike, is him like edge alignment. See the edge alignment here? He's just slapping with the flat of his blade. Look, you can't see that when it's moving fast, so the edge alignment is mostly excusable, but still, No, I don't. Look, edge alignment is one of those basic things that even a noob should be able to understand, like, basically. The fact that the edge alignment, and is holding by the crossguard, I have no idea what is doing there. But okay, it's implied or shown that Renfri dodges out of the way. This move right here, he does the weird side slap thing with the edge alignment really bad, and then he goes with the momentum. Renfri's on the back foot, but honestly, if she took advantage of that opening, she could have, slashed his back open. That's not good. Not good at all. And then Geralt spins around for a heavy attack. That attack is purposely... Because look, if he was attacking horizontally and she ducked, it would have missed. But it's not attacking horizontally. He's attacking vertically in a downward strike. And see that? That's a purpose miss. And so that's bad. And then he comes with a follow-up one, which is again, misses, like it's a direct miss again, not aiming for your opponent. And he overswings. Look at the overswing there. That's horrible. And then he comes back in. And, okay, so see this? See how bent his arm is? The choreography, they obviously don't want him to win yet, which is why he's purposely not extending and therefore missing. But if he just extended the strike, he would have slashed Renfri right open. See how withdrawn his sword is, how close he's holding it to his chest in that strike. There's no extension at all. And then he does another spin, exposing his back. So interesting block here, right? Renfri's blade position won't prevent Geralt from extending his sword in another thrust, okay? And from the angle, it seems like it would have hit... He could, like, at least get her side. What she needs to do is push Geralt's blade further away from her. But she's not really doing that. She's holding it there. And it's not... Because especially with where this strike was coming in. See this? Oh, look, it mostly was missing her. But... if he just readjusts his angle, like for instance, if he stepped a little bit more forward and then thrust in, he would have re-angled the blade, aiming at Renfri's, gut, and right through her gut, right there, but he doesn't do it. Instead, he's going to grab her sword and disarm. Now, this will actually work because look at the angle of her wrist, okay? She's basically rotated her wrist to the fullest extent that she can. And so, if you apply a counter pressure to push it further, that will rip the sword right out of her hands, which is exactly what Geralt does. And so, from this position here, even though what Renfri is doing is pretty dumb, the way she's angled it, from this position here, what Geralt does is solid. Yep, he just grabs it right out, twists her arm even further. Look at the angle of her wrist. There's no way that wrist is going any further without breaking, so she has to let go. And because he has more leverage than her, he's holding the blade further down, and so absolutely that would wrench a blade out of anyone's grip like that. So yeah, that's decent. Good disarm. I like it. So that's interesting. Geralt is holding his sword in an underarm position, and from this angle, he just wants to present his blade right to her, saying it's over. And that's exactly what he does, right there. Solid. I like it. I don't like the way he's holding it, but from the position he was in, holding it in reverse grip, moving to this, okay, it's absolutely plausible. He just shouldn't have been holding it like that from the get-go. High definition really is not the friend of props. You can actually see the seam of, this is either plastic or rubber that was, made or glued together and stuff, and you can see the seam line where those two parts are connected on the crossguard. See the line? And you can even see it on the pommel. So is he obviously holding a plastic or rubber prop that was glued together, and they didn't kind of clean it up to withstand higher scrutiny in high definition. So yes, Geralt's been dominating through this whole fight scene, and at this point he's kind of just reached it. It's like, look, it's over, okay? Stop fighting me. But does she? Well, we know what happens. If you've watched this fight scene, you know what happens. It's interesting that he purposefully switched his grip then, almost like this angle is far more ergonomically efficient and also just more comfortable. Like seriously, look at the awkward angle that you have. You have no extension in this position, so logically, of course, a more conventional sword grip is far better, and it seems to be like a subconscious acknowledgement, either from the choreography or from the actors themselves, that, you know, it's more comfortable just holding the sword this way. Which it is! Alright, so let's see what happens. She goes in to stab. Geralt grabs it. He's had enough. She's going to keep going, trying to kill him unless I kill her. That's really what it's been pushed to. And so when he grabs the blade, he just twists the wrist around and thrusts the blade into her throat and ends it. Which she wasn't giving him any other choice, which is why narratively, this doesn't make any sense at all. Didn't she want his help to kill the wizard? She is literally forcing Geralt to kill her, and he is fully capable of doing it. So this amounts to her committing suicide. Why does she want to die? I don't know. And the fight scene is over. So unfortunately, there was far more wrong with this fight scene than the things that worked. There were some decent exchanges, okay? 1 or 2 decent spins, but most of the spinning was just stupid. The thing is though, when you're not really paying close attention, this is a far more enjoyable fight scene than the throne room fight scene, for instance. Because the camera work, the speed, the timing, and the proficiency shown in the choreography. What do I mean about the proficiency? What I mean is, even though the moves were dumb, they were executed with good balance and good timing, and mostly good positioning of the blades. That equates to good proficiency. For instance, look at the set of exchanges that are about to play out. They are completely nonsensical from a swordsmanship standpoint, but in regards to the timing, the positioning of the camera, and the balance of the actors, okay? Watch how they move from one exchange to another. Pay attention. There was brilliant momentum in those exchanges where one hit goes to another hit, goes to another hit. See that? He blocks without pausing, he goes into another strike, and then he kind of goes with the momentum, and then, you know, Renfri's spinning around. It's like a dance. And if you can pull off a kind of series of exchanges that flow so well from one to another like a dance, it's going to be visually pleasing regardless of how stupid the moves are, and that's what they pulled off with this fight scene. And I love the speed between those exchanges. This is a fast-paced fight scene, which also makes it more enjoyable and engaging to watch. So even though most of the moves themselves were dumb and stupid, right? I actually still think this is a good fight scene for what it's meant to try and achieve. It's meant to be engaging, it's meant to be fast, and it's meant to at least appear skillful, even though when you break it down in slow motion, from a swordsmanship standpoint, there's not much skill there. And Renfri, her style is trash, like so bad. So I still think Renfri takes the prize of the worst swords combatant, right, in any of the fight scenes we've broken down here on Fight Scene Autopsy. She's the queen, king, winner, person so far. So there we go, and thank you for watching. This was a really interesting fight scene to break down, especially considering how much they did right and how much they did wrong. There were 2 big extremes in regards to it, and like I said, that made it very interesting to break down. So thank you for watching. I do hope you have enjoyed. If you want to see more Fight Scene Autopsies, well, I got a couple of other ones on this channel, and of course, more are coming. So do subscribe so you don't miss out on them when they are released. I hope to see you there, and until that time, farewell.